Hey everyone, Regal Reviews here. It is White Rice Wednesday, which means time for my Survivor recap. So, tonight was a 2-hour episode, so instead of going in order what events happened, I'm basically just going to sum up what happened with each player, because I feel like that video will just go on and on and on, so, um, I guess we'll start off with the obvious, the vote up from last week. Well, I guess we'll start with Michelle. Michelle, she's very aware that she's on the bottom. However, she's doing what she can to make sure she's not on the bottom. She feels like Nick betrayed her because those two were in an alliance, but Nick didn't, basically betrayed her last week. So, Michelle, this episode was basically seeing who can she trust in this game. And remember last week that Michelle gave Jeremy that 50-50 coin. Well, he didn't use it, and he didn't need to use it. So now all I kept thinking is, technically Jeremy could keep that coin. He doesn't have to give that back to Michelle. Michelle did get to keep the coin. And I thought that was a bold move of Jeremy to give that back to her. With that being said, a lot of people were trying to turn Jeremy and Michelle against each other because I don't think they're in a tight alliance as Michelle has been with other players this season. I feel like Jeremy's the only one that can work with her at the moment. And she ultimately... Well, they're trying to pit them against each other, saying that basically Ben was trying to say to Jeremy that he should try to go get the 50-50 coin from Michelle. Then he was saying to Michelle that, oh, Jeremy's asking for the coin. And Michelle ultimately decided to play the coin for herself, and it actually paid off because she got to use the coin when the votes were against her. So it was basically an idol then. So, yeah, I mean, the advantage worked out in Michelle's favor. However, personally, again, it's a totally different experience when you're out there, but I wouldn't want to use fire tokens on chance. I want to guarantee. I would never use my fire tokens to pay for a 50-50 shot at something. I want to pay for something I know I'm going to get. And Michelle actually, she knew she was on the bottom, and she actually ended up winning the second immunity challenge, which was pretty fun to watch. It was this challenge where you had to stack these blocks, and then it hit like a domino and had to hit a gong. But the trick was, it was trip obstacle, so you can't really go fast because if you bump it, the whole thing could fall over. So I gotta give Michelle credit for winning the second immunity. So by that being said, let's go with Nick. Nick has been trying this whole season to build his resume. He seems like a pretty quiet player. We haven't really seen too much from him. We saw him actually starting to play the game tonight. Nick actually won the first immunity tonight, and he won it also at a good time because if not, he would have went home that night. So Nick actually got a disadvantage from the Edge of Extinction courtesy of Natalie. I'll talk more about the Edge of Extinction later, but basically Nick has to pay 8 tokens to use this disadvantage on another player in the next immunity challenge. And right away, the most obvious guesses are Tony or Ben. And I kept thinking Ben because if Tony got the advantage, he'd be calm, cool, this is the situation, this is how I'm going to handle it. Ben would have a freaking freak out if he got the disadvantage. And sure enough, he did play it on Ben, and Ben's disadvantage was he got 30% more blocks and 30 more bored, whatever you call it. And Nick actually worked with Michelle on that, and he, I guess, kind of takes credit for the fact that Michelle is still in the game and she actually won immunity, so you can see he's trying to play the game. With Ben is basically Ben. He seems to be, the pot stirrer around camp. He's very hard to talk to, and he's very, I wouldn't trust him out there. But it seems like he's got it good with Tony and Sarah. Now, I kept thinking this. Now, if Tony and Sarah wanted to get rid of Ben, Ben has an idol. I'm not 100%, but I don't think anyone else knows Ben has an idol. So, if they were to vote Ben out, then they know he has an idol and they could go look for it. So, Tony would have an idol and potentially Sarah would have an idol. And Ben basically had the reaction I thought, I guess a lower version of what I thought. He asked Jeff, is there any way to tell who sent that? Because if he would have known, because there's no way, that was another thing too, they wouldn't know who gave them a disadvantage. Because if he would have known, he would have went ballistic. And I'm surprised he made it through this last two tribal councils, because I think Nick brought up an interesting point that Ben, if we recall, during his season was the first season they used the fire making challenge at the end, and he won, and he would win again. Like, if Ben gets to the end in fire, he's gonna win. But Ben's also a good person to take to the end because he's not well liked among the cast. So with Denise kind of had a quiet episode. She's very good in the challenges. She seems to not have any enemies around camp, which is very good. She seems to be very well liked on the jury, and at camp everybody wants to work with her. Denise kind of thought that she was on the outs, and since it was the last night they could buy anything with fire tokens, she offered, she wanted a last meal for herself, but then also if she were to go home, she made sure it was rice, so then that way the people at camp would have something to eat. And I kept thinking of Angelina during her season when she kept making it known to everyone that she bought rice for the entire tribe. I mean, Denise only said that again at tribal council, and I could see why, because she would want the jury to know that she did that. Let's see, with Sarah, Sarah and Tony seem to be a good alliance. I'm surprised they've been in a tight alliance so far. Tony and Sarah seem to be working really well, and I don't really have that much to say about Sarah tonight. Nothing really. She also had kind of a quiet episode as well. With Jeremy and Ben have been clashing the past couple episodes, and Jeremy wants to work with Michelle. I believe it was Jeremy that wanted to get out Nick as well, but then, like I mentioned, Nick won the first immunity, so they had to find the plan B in that solution. So I think it was Jeremy said that he wanted to have the votes go to Ben. Yeah, because he has an alliance with Michelle. So that didn't work because Jeremy ended up getting sent home tonight. And the second time around, I was actually surprised Nick got sent home. I mean, I was surprised, but I wasn't. I thought they might turn it on Ben, and that way they could play his idol, but they didn't. With Tony, he seems to be a powerhouse. If he gets to the final three, he definitely has a good chance to win. I'm about 90% sure if Tony gets to the end, he's gonna win. He seems to be utilizing the spy nest pretty well. We saw that. He seems to be in control of all the votes that are going on, and people are starting to see that. But Tony also does have an idol in his pocket, and I believe the next tribal council is the last time they could play an idol. Yeah, because usually it's a final 5 or 6, so Tony's at least guaranteed, if he plays his idol next tribal council, he's guaranteed for the final 5. So he would have to win. No. See, the fire challenge makes it more complicated. Even Tony mentioned that this whole decision makes it complicated because you used to be able to just say, okay, this is who I'm going with to the end, but now the other factor is, okay, I want to go with this person to the end, but then also who are you going to have left to go to fire? So it makes this decision all more complicated. But Tony has a really good chance because he has found idols, he has had fire tokens, and he has played them right in the game. So yeah, I'm very excited for next week's episode. I cannot believe the season's almost over. I don't know what you guys are thinking, but this has been a really good season. Probably one of the best I've seen in a while. So I hope you guys enjoyed Survivor tonight. Oh, geez, Edge of Extinction. Sorry. So, Edge of Extinction, they had this challenge where they had to find this stone throne, and they were all running all over the place, and Natalie, because she's been there the longest, she knew exactly where it was, and she was the one that used the disadvantage, so Natalie had got 8 tokens for that, and I've never been a Natalie fan, but I have to give her major props. For one, being voted out first and being on the edge of extinction long and being basically the queen of extinction. She had 14 freaking tokens at the end, and she was able to buy peanut butter. She has 3, count them, 3 advantages in this next challenge to get back in the game. She has an idol, so she's guaranteed to the final 5. And she bought an idol for Tyson because one would think, well, why didn't you just buy another idol for yourself, because then you could use it for somebody else. Apparently you could only go into that challenge with one idol, so she decided to give it to Tyson, so that way, in case he makes it, because he's already won the challenge once, so Tyson has a pretty good chance of getting back in again, so then Tyson would be safe. So if Natalie does make it back into Edge of Extinction, from the Edge of Extinction, she has a very good chance to win. And for me not being a Natalie fan, if she makes it to the final 3, she definitely does deserve it, and she definitely does have a very good case. So now, I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's Survivor. If you want to check out Survivor, it is on Wednesdays, 8 p.m. on CBS. Till next time, stay regal.